Islam is one of the largest and oldest religions on earth. They devoutly worship Allah, which means the one true God. True Islam teaches spirituality, morality, and pure monotheism. It is broken into several different factions, whose differences often turn deadly. The core of their belief stems from the 5 pillars of practice, which dictates things like how and when they worship along with other fundamental beliefs. Muslims look to their holy text, known as the Quran, for divine inspiration. A large percentage of Muslims follow a code known as the Sharia law.
Sharia law is a broad legal system that not only dictates how Muslims behave publicly, but also privately. There are many different views and interpretations of Sharia law, depending on the Islamic faction or individual asked. It dominates over men and women within nations that subscribe to its teachings. It teaches how individuals should operate within their everyday life. Sharia law can often demand for brutal and violent punishments. For example, thieves get their right hands chopped off. Sharia law is particularly harsh against women. One law dictates that a man can marry an infant. The man is allowed to consummate the marriage when she turns 9. A man is allowed to beat his wife if he deems her insubordinate. Brutal laws like these make Sharia law one of the most criticized and controversial civil codes in existence today.
I know that they follow the Prophet Muhammad and that their Bible is the Quran.
5 pillars developed after Judaism and after Judaism and Christianity, based on Prophet Muhammad.
I'm not really too knowledgeable on the religion, but I know that the holy book is known as the Quran, and they're one of the 3 people of the book, which is like Jews, Christians, and the Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that they're monotheists and that they're not the nicest religion in the world, because what I know of the Quran is that there's a bunch of stories of Muhammad going around killing people for not converting to Islam.
Middle Eastern origins, obviously. It is a monotheistic religion.
I know that Islam is a faith most centralized in the Middle East, but through time it has turned into a more extremist view, and it has caused global tension between different countries, including the United States and the Middle East, and different acts of terrorism, I guess.
I know that it's similar to Christianity in the sense that they both worship the same God but with a different name. They both acknowledge Jesus Christ as a prophet, but Islam believes that Muhammad was the last prophet, and their holy book's the Quran, not the Bible.
I know that a vast majority of them in the Middle East, numbers like 90-something% of them follow Sharia law. They base their whole life off of it.
I know that it is a popular religion that takes place mainly in the Middle East.
Allahu Akbar,
And I do feel it needs to be reformed because the severity in which some practice, and I say some because I feel I'm generalizing. There are people that practice religions well, and there are people that don't do that well. And in the Islamic religion, there are some extremely strong beliefs, and unfortunately, what I've seen as a citizen of the United States, I've seen some terrible fatalities.
The religion of Islam itself, I don't believe needs to be reformed, but the radical part of that religion, I believe, does.
I definitely think that it does. It has a lot of antiquated views, especially on things like homosexuality and women's place in society. I think that it's something that definitely needs to change with the times.
Furthermore, going off the treatment of women, their treatment of women is rather inhumane. Women get stoned to death for cheating on their husbands. Women are objects to a man's happiness and not a real part of society.
I believe that radical Islam needs to be reformed because radical Islamic belief takes everything in the Quran to the extreme, causing violent acts of terrorism.
Well, I don't necessarily think it needs to be reformed, but the Islamic extremism within the Muslim religion needs to be addressed by the larger community, the Muslim community.
So it's their responsibility to self-police a little bit?
I believe it is, yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's a blanket statement that people of Islam are mean or more inherently aggressive than people of Christian or people of Christianity or people of Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that their religion is a bit more aggressive than the rest.
Okay.
When an Islamic marries an American woman, I feel that their life changes considerably compared to the role that they played as an American citizen.
Yeah, I believe it does. I believe when people see Islamic people in public, they fear just because of the past events that they have committed on our country. But personally, if I got into an airplane, that's probably one of the first things I'm looking for.
I know that a vast majority of the Muslim population in America is very highly educated and hold positions in the workplace, such as doctors, lawyers, and even the small business owners in America that own convenience stores and gas stations. They do a tremendous job.
I'm not sure what percentage of the population is Islamic, but I know that socially, that among the population of the United States, there's a lot of fear towards the Muslim community, associated with its sometimes linked to terrorism and acts of violence against Christians and other faiths.
I know that the Muslim faith makes up about 1% of America's population, and studies have shown that most Muslims here in America are actually more educated than Americans.
I think that there's a sense of fear that has been instilled in the United States citizens just due to the relation between this belief and previous attacks on the United States, including 9/11.
Islamic American citizens, the overwhelming majority, are probably peaceful, law-abiding citizens. In America, that is, at least.
Any culture within the United States is going to behave a little differently, have their own norms, and have their own set of cultural differences. So Muslims obviously will have differences, as would Catholics or Jews or Protestants. They'll be different as it is a group, religious group in the United States. In itself, in its purest form, without the radical ideas,
interpretation.
Yeah, I think is not necessarily a negative impact, but I think it's the Sharia law and the extreme element of the Muslim faith that's been kind of stolen from the Muslim faith is definitely a negative for the United States and for the world, and I think could be quite dangerous.
Yes.
I do think that is a real problem that people are hesitant to acknowledge because they're scared to portray all of the Muslim faith as an extremist faith, which it isn't. To say that all Muslims are terrorists would just be an ignorant statement. But I think that there is a clear link between normal, nonviolent Islam and the radicalized version of Islam that can happen to especially young people and young men as they come of age.
In recent history, yes, there is a real problem with radicalized Muslim extremism. It's really becoming a problem, and it's spreading all across the Middle East. And I believe today that there was a officer in Paris killed. There was the Orlando nightclub shooting here, the Boston Marathon bombing. These are all acts committed by Muslim extremists that have happened not only on our soil, but our allies' soil.
Yes, I would say probably that radical Islam clearly is.
And you think that comes from the doctrine itself, or?
It's tough to say because It might just be because like of the context of the Muslim majority countries, of like the context that those nations are dealing with. But I mean, there's no denying that virtually every terrorist is a radical Muslim terrorist.
Okay.
And there has got to be some correlation there. It just doesn't seem coincidental.
I would think so, yeah.
Why do you think that?
Because while Christians have had the Crusades and other religions have had their sprees of being prejudiced towards people of other religions and attacking and killing people of other religion, this is their modern crusade. And it's not, our prophets within our holy books didn't go around murdering people. Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, one of the main figures within the book, is seen as going around killing people, and I think that advocates for the intolerance of other religions.
Well, there definitely is a correlation because most of the terrorists that we're seeing lately are Muslim.
I don't know too much about it, but I do know that it oppresses women.
I know that it involves the oppression of women in the Islamic faith. Men basically control their wives and other women. Women cannot be in public without men or they can be stoned. And they are basically just viewed as property and not as an individual.
I know that it's strict laws or rules revolving around religious tradition. I believe, like, for women, the covering of the face and skin and hijabs and all that kind of stuff.
Maybe 50%.
In their own country, back in the Middle East, I would say are much more intolerant.
So if you had to give a percentage that supported
Probably
Sharia law, 80%?
Somewhere between like 65 and 75.
Okay.
Of worldwide.
Extremely high. I feel that 90% of the population would practice the law.
In the world, I'm gonna say 65%.
What are your thoughts on the fact that it's between actually 70 and 75%?
I'm not surprised.
That surprises me because I generalizing, I feel that in Islam that's what they practice. So that's good to know that it's less than I assumed it was. That come here to the United States, I'm going to say 20 to 25%.
20%. I don't know.
So maybe 20%.
20%.
Relatively few. I'd go 15%.
Okay.
Because if they're living within America, I would assume that they honestly do believe in our ideals of religious freedom and such.
I'd say probably at least 50%, if not more.
I would say it's between 30 and 40%.
The number is actually 51% of U.S. Muslims who believe in the Sharia law and follow it. And what are your thoughts on this fact?
That's surprising because most of them seem peaceful.
That disappoints me because I feel the Islamic religion is a religion that definitely needs modification, and I feel that when people come here as citizens, they should open themselves up to other options of religion, less forceful, less cult-like is the word that comes to my mind.
Well, I believe that it really needs to be changed. The fact that women can be used as basically as property and aren't allowed to be their own individual is extremely one behind times and one just wrong.
I do, because I think that you as a woman should be able to choose if that's something you'd like to do, but from what I understand with radical Islam, for a woman it's not a choice, but it's something that they have to do.
So the Islamic religion is kind of forced upon women, and that sort of understanding is kind of forced on them as well?
I think so.
Okay.
I feel it's a shamed religion for women. I feel women are viewed as much less of that of a man they have to stay covered and garbed, not exposing themselves. And I'm surprised at how many American women allow themselves to become victims to that.
I believe so. I mean, when I see any type of spokesman for the Islamic faith, most of the time it is a man. Most of the time women are kind of used as just a figure and as a symbolism. I mean, when I think of Islam faith, I think of women wearing the headdress and wearing the different clothing, but I never think of a spokesman for them and them being able to speak for themselves.
I feel like not all women find it to be oppressive. I have seen interviews where some women do believe in wearing that. They feel that the hijab is part of their religion and covering themselves something they want to do.
The religion of Islam is such a controversial topic because, much like Christianity, there are several different views on it, which can dramatically change how the religion is practiced. There are Muslims that believe that it is a religion of peace and tolerance. Others, however, believe that women and non-Islamics, which are known as infidels, are second-class citizens, or even worse, and that to us is intolerable and needs to be reformed. However, with about 1.6 billion adherents, there must be a lot of good in this religion, which is often a complicated topic.